on over there? Who's in the box? What's in the box?
What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel. I'm betting you were hoping that this was the Swifter Water video. I have to apologize and say that it is not. Ron C. and I got out onto a stretch of the North Branch Potomac last weekend, but our trip was cut short. All right, we are headed into some gnarly stuff. So, at least I think so. I don't know what it's going to be like at this water level. I've only done this run once, and the first time Valerie did this. Careful. Straighten it out. Straighten it out. I got it. Get out of the water. So as we headed into that exact same area, the Manta kind of parked itself on a rock, and this happened. Uh-oh. Oh no. Run! Run! My paddle! Ah, shit. All right, so two stupid things happened there that caused the loss of the paddle. One, Ron was way too close to me when you're approaching rapids. If I were to get hung up on anything, he had very little time to correct. That's exactly what happened. And as he turned his kayak, one of his baits hooked on to one of my rods. The other thing that happened, and it doesn't matter how experienced you are with this stuff, when you get into a situation like that, you kind of lose your mind a little bit. And when one hand wasn't enough, I don't know why, but I decided that my paddle was okay where it was. I let go of it, and boom, bye-bye. So what's in the box? It's the exact same paddle, only with orange blades, because honestly, you lose your paddle in water like that, it's really, really hard for the other people that you're with to see. So even though I've been doing this for years, you learn something with every trip. Orange blades. So also, and this is something that we all should do, and I honestly have never needed it. In the years that I have been doing kayak fishing, I've never needed a leash. But if you're gonna put yourself in water like that, it's a good idea to get one. Kind of stays out of the way, and you can just connect it up to pretty much anything. But it makes more sense to just latch it to the paddle keeper if you're using this kayak. And by the way, I will be doing a review on the Kayaking Angler Pro in the near future. there was a third cause to that incident, and that goes to the rod holders on the Manta itself. So when you load up these rod holders, you got that one, which technically there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. The angle's a little bit high for my taste, but look at this. I am perfectly perpendicular to the rod holders right now. I'm gonna drop this guy in and watch what happens. Oh, look at that. It goes out to a 90-degree angle of the kayak. Now, bear in mind that the Manta has a 38-inch beam, but when you're in skinny water, like I am an awful lot, trees don't care about beam. They care about wingspan. And when your rods are hanging out at a 90-degree angle to you, it increases your wingspan significantly. If I've got two 6.5-foot rods on the outside rod holders, the wingspan of this kayak is 7 foot 9 inches. You go with longer rods, that's going to increase. That's what trees care about. You're basically taking a barge down the river. So perpendicular rod holders, look, unless you're trolling, it's just not a good idea. Obviously, these holder assemblies aren't going to go anywhere, but I need to figure out something else that is more practical in skinny water. All right, so we got another box here, and this should be the solution to our issues here.
What's in the box?
I actually got two of these kits. These are rod holders and track mounts. And the whole purpose is I'm not going to use all the track mounts, but I am going to use all the rod holders. Purpose is kind of like this. Obviously much further back on the yak, but these are aimable, and you can actually tuck in toward the back of the kayak if you do them. Again, these will be much further back because this would be in the way of paddling and everything. I even went like here. If you do it here, you're still gonna impact at least the butt of the rods, perhaps the reels, with your backstroke. So they need to go back a bit further. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch to get to them, but this thing is so stable that it really doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to install these kits with the two rod holders, one track mount each, one on each side. The other thing that this system will eliminate is the rods being in the shot of my camera, which is something that I have never experienced with any kayak that I've had. You don't see, rods sitting in the frame of my videos, and it's extremely annoying, especially at wide angle, because it makes them look curved and everything. It's weird, looks silly, and that's why you've pretty much never seen it on my channel. So we're gonna get into this, and we should have it done pretty quickly. All right, so the idea is to have the tracks far enough back to where they don't interfere with any even exaggerated paddle strokes, like for instance if you're going 180 in current. I also don't want it to interfere with the transom, and this is exactly where it goes, should I decide to install it. I've done some preliminary testing on this, and this seems like the place. Right in line, the back screws are right in line with that cord hitch there. So let's go ahead and get started on this. The first thing I do, I have a product like this that has 10 screws, is I drive one. I'm going to be doing pilots, and the pilots are smaller than the thread on this, but if you just go raw dog, so to speak, but if you don't do a pilot and you just attack it with this, you're gonna peel away kayak material, and that's never a good thing. And these, I'm going to put the business end toward the back so I can get these as far forward as possible from this position. Here we go. Not driving it in all the way. All right. So we just basically bought ourselves a hand there. Cool. Pull this guy out. If there's any debris over the holes, get rid of it. We're just going to put a dab of silicone on each hole. This is just to make it as waterproof as possible. All right, we're in business. Going to start battening this guy down with that screw first. You're going to do them all loose to begin with. There we go. All right, so at this point we are going to hand tighten them the rest of the way. This is a nice setup. It comes with all the hardware required. As I'm hand tightening them down the rest of the way because I do not want to overdrive them. And I'm kind of crazy about having all my heads matching the same direction. I'm actually a bit of a monster about that. In the days of doing wall plates, I used to go around fixing everybody else's, including the electricians. All right, there we go. So that's why we slide one over here. Put one right. It's as close as it will catch. That'll work. And then these will drop in. And you can maneuver them a little bit. Now, everything looks beautiful, right? The one thing I don't like about this system is, oops, well, that right there is not good, is that when they're locked into place, they actually have a little play. So that kind of sucks. But this is something that I like. You know, if you're just regular fishing, you can have them hanging out in there, right? But if you're about to get into heavy water where there's a chance of tipping your kayak, all you have to do is flip this over, and there's no way for your rod to escape this system. And then when you're done, you just turn that back the other way, and that's it. Another rod in. We're good to go. It actually aims in toward the center. It's going to be completely out of the GoPro shot. This works. So let's go ahead and do the other side, and we'll do just a practical dry test of this. All right, so we basically got everything set up here as it should be with this. Pull the paddle. Again, we are on a leash, but any seriously robust strokes completely misses the rods. The holders really don't get in the way of the paddle park. Not bad. Perfect. All right, so and if I'm just going as I normally would be in a typical day, typically this is where my paddle stays, and I've got access to my rods just fine, right? And I know a bunch of people are gonna ask, so before you ask, yes, bait casters work perfectly well. And if you park it down in that area, do the lock thing, it's not going anywhere. So bait casters, I don't throw often. You guys know I'm pretty finesse, but when there's a big power fishing topwater day or something like that, yeah, I will occasionally bust out the bait casters. We've solved the issue, and we're not using that real estate, which kind of sucks, but something such as what happened out on the river with Ron and I, this pretty much eliminates it. You know, again, as I said, part of it was that he was way too close to me when the kayak parked on that rock, and he had to scramble to avoid me. But part of it was also just the wingspan of this thing. And now the wingspan is just how these protrude out just ever so slightly. Doesn't matter because it's still not wider than this. So if we're going by trees, we're 38 inches instead of 7.5 feet with a pair of 6.5s just flying out the side of this thing. That's huge. That is a big deal. And if you're concerned about, you know, how far these extend out beyond the back of the kayak, you can always just raise them up a little bit. But I like this where it's at. All of my rod tips in this kayak now are lower than in any other kayak that I have. The angle is a little bit higher. These are about like this. So I can actually fit under stuff a little better than I could in any other kayak. Folks, this works great. I would highly recommend these. It's an off-brand. Again, the only complaint that I have is even though it's in a locked position, there is some give in there, but they're not going anywhere. So it's not really that big of a deal. The link to the rod holder kits will be in the description. Everything is now secure. Everything. I don't hit water like that often, but when I do, it's nice that this thing is outfitted for that now. That's gonna do it for this one, folks. Ron C and I are planning on heading out back to that same stretch because I've been out there twice now, and the day ended prematurely, but for the exact same reason, a lost paddle. That's not gonna happen this next time, and we need to conquer that water completely. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you on the next.